Well, it's another cool morning again, but there's still plenty of bits and bobs to do around garden and in greenhouses. One of the things that you might be noticing now at this time of year is the ripening of your fruits has really slowed down. And that's understandable because the temperature's dropping, the daylight hours are getting less. So there's less time for your existing fruits to ripen, and there's definitely no time left to be growing new fruits. So what I do at this time of year is I cut back all the tomato plants back to a bare minimum. So whatever fruit's still on those plants has got at least a chance to fully ripen. Because the less daylight hours that we get, the more you need to utilise the ones that we do. So they need as much light during those hours as possible. And that's the reason for topping your tomato plants and cutting off excess foliage so you can expose them more. And I'll show you what I do with my tomato plants at this time of year and what they look like after I've finished. So this is one of the tomato plants in the greenhouse, and you can see that it's got quite a few tomatoes left on it, but they're not ripening. We've got older ones at the bottom which are doing fine, and then we've got some that are trying, but they're just not quite there. That's the reason why we need to reduce the amount of foliage and expose them to as much light as possible. And starting at tops of these plants, you've got little tomatoes like this still trying to grow. There's no time for that anymore. So going from the top of your plant and working your way down, you've got your first little truss with tomatoes on. And I cut everything above that off. And any side shoots. So it just leaves that tomato. And I'll do the same with the next one, because they're still trying to grow more suckers. And that's the last thing we need at this time of year. So all that needs to go. That obviously is trying to flower to grow a new tomato. There's no time left. So on that stem, again, back down, we'll cut the old stem off. And the same here, the top of this one, trace that back down. There's a bunch of tomatoes there that are trying to ripen, but energy is obviously going into these. Take them off. And again, any extra side shoots, just get rid. At this time of year, they're not going to serve any purpose whatsoever. And that's how it looks now. And then I'll just carry on working my way down plant, taking all this excess foliage away. So it seems a bit brutal, but the more you remove now, the more light you're exposing them existing tomatoes to. And if you don't do this, they're just never going to ripen in time. As soon as we get a frost, these plants are done. And I know we're not going to get a frost at the moment, but doing this is going to make a big difference. The more you cut away, the more you realise how many suckers have managed to grow that you missed through season. By the time we've finished, this is what you've got left. But all those tomatoes are still on a living plant. So they'll carry on ripening. And now they'll ripen a lot faster because they're exposed to the maximum amount of light they can get for this time of year. So now you can see to what extent I cut these tomato plants back. Because if I don't, I'm going to have bags and bags of green tomatoes, which I personally don't want. If you like chutney, brilliant. I don't like chutney. So I don't want any green tomatoes. If there's any possibility at all that I can get them to ripen faster. And also, while you're waiting for these tomatoes to ripen, cut back on your watering. Only water them once every 3 days or so, and just give them a little bit, just enough to keep them going. And that'll also help with that ripening process. But the main thing to do is to chop off as much of that excess foliage as you can. And then you've got a really good chance that whatever's left on your plants will then fully ripen. We cut that plant back. There's a few more in there, which I'm going to carry on and get done now. But I'll show you the other greenhouses where we've cut all the foliage off more tomato plants only a few days ago. A lot of these tomatoes weren't ripening a few days ago. And now we've completely exposed them to what light there is left during the day. And now they're all starting to ripen. So we're guaranteed another nice harvest. And that one, a couple of days ago, was basically just green. And so were they. And now that ripening process has started on all of them. We also do the same thing with cucumbers. Any old leaves, especially around the bottom, get rid of them. Just keep clearing a path for your existing fruits. Get rid of old leaves. Get rid of all the low leaves. Don't need those anymore. And you can expose little fruits like that. That'll have a better chance of growing. Because, as with the tomatoes, once you cut back all that foliage, it's using less energy to grow those leaves that you no longer really need, and concentrate more on ripening your fruit. So you can see exactly what a difference it makes. In just a few days, all those fruits are now ripening. If we would have left them surrounded with all that foliage, there's a pretty good chance that half of them would never have made it. But now we're pretty much guaranteed that everything on all those plants is going to end up a really nice, ripe red colour. Which is exactly what we want. Anyway, thank you very much for watching the video. Always appreciate it. And if you're interested in seeing more in future, as we go into autumn and winter, then please just hit that subscribe button, press that notifications bell, and we'll see you next time. You all take care.